Do we have? Yeah. All right. So, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you have liked the day this far. I'm Heikki.
And Matti.
And let's start with a quick show of hands. How many of you have heard about Backstage? All right.
Wow.
So many of you. And how many of you are already using Backstage? Oh, that's great. All right, for those who are not familiar with Backstage, it's an open platform for building internet developer portals, or IDPs. And it's actually celebrating its 5th birthday this year. And we have, So here are some numbers from Backstage, and it's really active project. And it's actually the 5th most active project in the whole CNCF landscape. And there are a lot of companies using Backstage, as you can see already here. There are a lot of people using it. And from the adopters.md file from the Backstage, it's 280 companies. And the unofficial number is around 3,600 or something like that. And there is also a lot of open source plugins done by various teams around the world. And this really shows that the interest is there. So then in a recent DX study, Backstage was also leading the pack with a whopping 67% market share over the IDPs. And at OP Financial Group, we are also proud adopters of Backstage. And we have been doing it for 3 years now, around more or less. And our own IDP is called OP Hub. Yes, the name is a bit boring, but hey, come on, we are a bank, so boring is kind of our thing. And we are also active contributors to the upstream. And we also have this internal contributions way of doing things. So for OP Hub, we have already over 30 teams who have contributed like an inner source, either plugins or self-service templates or so forth.
Yeah, and that OP there is pretty much Heikki.
Yeah, that's true also.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we have around 1,400 active users in our IDP, so it's quite huge. We are still have some cap to the limit, but let's see how it goes.
I think we have stretched out some of the features pretty heavily already.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
All right. So starting with Backstage is quite easy. You just run this magic command, then change the logo, pick some colors. But there's a bit of an issue because Backstage, it starts empty. And this includes the software catalog. And this catalog is supposed to hold all your software assets in it. Systems, components, APIs, resources, and so forth. And it's also working as a backbone for other Backstage core features like scaffolder and tech docs and so forth. Also, a lot of plugins use catalog to use the software assets you have already there. Now, the big question in the room is, of course, how do you get the content to the catalog? Well, Backstage uses something called entity providers and processors to bring entities to the catalog. And the most common way is to create these kind of YAML files in source code repositories, which define the entity you want to see in the Backstage. And Backstage then reads it and shows it for you in the catalog. And this is cool, and it's working out of the box. But what if you already have hundreds or thousands repositories in your organization? First idea would be to tell the teams that you have to write these YAML files. But there's a couple of issues because people should know what to put in these files, and also, do they really want to do it? Probably not. The second idea would be to centrally generate these files and push them to the repositories. But again, you as a central place for this, you don't know the contents of each repository. So it doesn't work that way either. And at OP, we thought about this hard, and we came up with something called engineering data platform. Matti, can you tell something about it?
Sure. Thanks, Heikki. Yeah, I'll take it from there. So a little bit of a history. I think it, like you said, started about 3 years ago. And you could consider that exercise a little bit like an internal open source project or internal startup, actually. So we kind of identified that our developer experience, it requires a lot of information gathering from here and there, and you should have, different tools to monitor different aspects of software development. And, there is a lot to gather and a lot to follow up. And then we made a big, I think, like strategic decision that, hey, we need to decouple the data backend from the actual Backstage implementation. And we started to invest into this engineering data platform. And, it became kind of like central part of different kind of engineering data products or data sets, and, including source code, analytics, and pull requests, whatever. I'll talk more about those later. But what this really means, that data is coming to the engineering. I have a long history, 15 years of this kind of data-driven approach in the software, and I think now it comes from the business side also to engineering in a kind of big way. So I think investing into data-driven processes and controls enables this kind of automated, transparent, efficient software development and operating processes. And how to then enable that? So you need to have the data there, and then you have the developer portal part, which is to make the data consumable and utilize the framework capabilities, automating different kind of workflows and building the controls and stuff like that. And then a few words about our context. So we are pretty big player in the software field in Finland. So I think we are probably the third biggest software house. And you can imagine if there was a construction site of our size, it would be quite big project. In terms of software, you don't really kind of discern that. It's hard to kind of, get a mental picture how big of an exercise that is, and, understanding all the complexity related to building such kind of structure. It's quite difficult, but anyway, this is kind of like a way to then gather all the information required to operate this whole exercise. So we are talking about thousands of repositories, like Heikki mentioned, and actually there are even other types of components. So altogether we are approaching 10,000 Shunis.
Yeah.
And I think that's something where Backstage starts to a little bit, I don't know, is there already some kind of way to overcome that? But there has been some challenges, how it scales to that big of a numbers of components and so on. But I'm sure the platform will evolve from there. And then, of course, operational-wise, there's a lot of traffic to our services. So I just confirmed we have like 700 million mobile sign-ins annually. And then you have also the the web customers as well. That's just a mobile number. And yeah, we also have the legacy. So we have a mix of classical on-prem tech stacks, still in on-prem. Antti promised that in 5 years we won't have on-prem anymore. We are all in cloud, but yeah, we are investing in the modern cloud platforms as we speak. And actually, Backstage plays a big role. I mean, OP Hub plays a big role there with our transition to Azure. So many of these workflows related to the resource creation and all the procedures, how you start to operate in Azure. We actually created the workflows there and harnessed, safeguarded the processes so that we kind of like we're compliant with the regulations. We are heavily regulated, and lots of different things that have to be in control. So we found that Backstage with the templates, software templates, offers a great tooling for that purpose. So altogether, roughly 200 dev teams, and then 3,500 developers altogether, or like members in the development teams. And yeah, so this is a lot of complexity, as you can imagine. And there are a few things to manage this complexity. First, you have to be able to describe your context. And I don't mean the kind of like traditional documentation, but I think this is really about the data, how you describe your software context in terms of data. And that gets you to understand your context. And only then, after you understand, you can manage. So this all builds, on top of each others. So you have to have this understanding, and it comes from the data, and then you can have a tools to manage and cope with this complexity. And this kind of illustrates, the significance and the value of the data. So in many cases, I think this might look familiar to you as well. So there are different kind of, let's say, silos, perhaps, between different kind of like stakeholders and processes, how we kind of execute the whole thing. So there are these dev guys, obviously, doing their thing, and then there are probably some ops guys who are looking after how the things are running in a production. Then there is customer somewhere, sometimes happy, sometimes not. And then there are, of course, the business people, and then many other stakeholders, like the security guys and regulation guys, and different kind of stakeholders. And then the idea, what we kind of like built, is that from all those processes and tools, we built this data pipeline so that we get the real-time data available to the single place data platform. And that's kind of way to unite the operations. So we get this our view of things. So everybody is on the same data, on the same page. And that's the way kind of like to integrate the processes. Once you have the data available, then you can have first of all this common understanding how the things are, but then also you have this opportunity to build these automation flows end to end, even across the processes. And this is just a kind of like reference slide from some high-level architecture. But what it illustrates is that there are a lot of things in software delivery, from end to end. The bigger the company, the bigger the size of the software project is, the more steps and things you have to build in your delivery pipelines and processes. But what is for sure, data-driven engineering and development processes help there greatly, and it's enabling this intelligent automation capabilities in terms of being also prepared for the more advanced AI cases. So typically, when you start to kind of build your machine learning solution or AI solution, you might end up spending like 80% of your time, gathering the data, cleaning it up, and all the processing related to that. So that's kind of like a big bonus in terms of getting the value of the data. It's not only feeding the Backstage, but also for the other purposes that are ahead of us. All right, then we have been kind of like applying the DevOps principles, kind of transforming to the DevOps mode of operation for last 5 years or so. And now it comes with the new flavors. It's still very relevant, but now you have also the DevSecOps, you have the DevRecOps, you have the FinOps, and all these kind of flavors of ops. But what this really means that when you have these process hooks from the different processes and feeding the data into common place, and then you can kind of like get the synergies of this data across different processes and build for instance, of FinOps capabilities based on the data, like the software asset catalogs that you have. There might be some, then cost calculations based on those and stuff like that. So it really enables quite a few other processes as well. All right, so yeah, we have been doing a lot of integrations, as you see from here. This is just a kind of very short illustration, simple illustration of how we did it. But yeah, you have obviously those integrations. This is just a couple of examples there. You see, I think we have like 15 integrations currently, and probably like roughly 200 tables currently. Because obviously from those integrations from the source aligned data, you then you kind of like develop products out of those. So it can be multiple amount of products that you actually come from different integrations when you join them together and extract different kind of things from there. So we use currently AWS for that. We are on the way to Azure also. We will be migrating our stuff there. But we use the standard AWS components like S3 buckets for the data storage, and we built our ETLs, lambdas for processing the data. We have some really heavyweight processing as well. So we take all the source code from our 5,000 repositories, and we do the source code analysis for everything, and extract lots of metadata from the source code dependencies and stuff like that. So some quite heavyweight stuff there as well. And then for the consumption, so we use Athena. So whenever something gets ready in our platform, we throw it over to Heikki so he can kind of present it nicely in the Backstage and make those great automations based on that. So there's lots of context information he can utilize then, and the team, of course, building those intelligent workflow automations when you have the data available. But then that's not the only thing. We also use Power BI for the reporting. So then there are like these global reports. So if the Backstage is more like, you have the component scope and you have the data in the scope of the component or system or so, then we have this overall view, so how all of the systems are doing, for instance. And we use that as a tool, for instance, for the migration that Antti was talking about earlier. So for our kind of tracking our technology transition from the legacy platforms to the new target platforms that we want to go for. So and there are lots of different kind of use cases also for those reports. Then we leverage the same data for building those. And then some practical example. This is not something that we have completely done yet, but just to kind of illustrate the power of this data and some of the learnings related to the entity model. So this becomes really important once you have lots of data. And typically, if you have built those systems and processes in isolation, you kind of find out that, hey, this data doesn't link together. So you kind of realize that, hey, we actually lacking this kind of entity model, and you have to do something about it. So to get the data, linked together. So you have to start building these associations the hard way, like we did. So we did a lot of advanced algorithms to map these different kind of entities together, so that we can use different dimensions for different purposes of reporting and so on. The security one example here. So there, as you know, like the scanner tools, each of them are designed a little bit different way. So some of the tools, they report based on the artifacts, the built artifacts, and some of the tools, they're scanning the repositories, and then there are some tools that they scan based on, or to present the results based on the IP addresses, for instance. But then somebody would need to know how the whole system, what is the kind of the overall situation for a certain system, and then you need this linking information. So how the entities are actually, connected together, or how they are, what is the topology, or what is the kind of the linkage between them. So there we have lots of this, or we have these key abstractions of the entities that are actually presented also in the catalog. And then obviously there's a lot of metadata that we are harvesting then for each of the entity. So the metadata then is enriching the kind of like the presentation of each of the entity. But that's not all. Then when you want to get, when you want things to be actionable, then you have to find the owners. So we have done a lot of work in terms of dynamically, automatically identifying the owners for all of the stuff that we have. So there is with a lot of history, a lot of legacy components, it's sometimes hard to track that who actually is responsible for this and that finding that was kind of like raised up, So keeping track of the ownerships is one of the core features that we support, and we have invested quite a bit. And then further on, making it even more actionable, you should be able to even create the tickets for the respective owners. So we have also done the mapping from the owners to the issue management dimension. So that's the kind of the model how it can be implemented in some real life use cases. Yeah, this kind of like summarizes the thinking there. So you have this kind of like, I would think that these are the crucial ones in terms of the key dimensions that we have identified. So assets, different abstractions of assets, including even hardware things, but mostly software, of course. Then the work management, whatever tooling you are using, and then the up-to-date HR master data, which kind of describes the organization and the topology, how the organization has been built and who belongs to what unit in the organization. Okay, how are we doing timing-wise? I think we still have some time, so a few tips. So I think one of the key learnings is obviously that this is if you are starting to kind of like take the IDP into use, so you would. And if you think about this kind of data platform idea, you like it, you think that it would be maybe something to consider. So it's better to think about this entity model early in the process, rather than as an afterthought. We have gone the hard way there, and hopefully learned something. But just for you guys, if you haven't thought about it, so something to consider. And yeah, of course, you have to take this enterprise data architecture seriously. So whenever you're taking a new tool into use, spend some time to kind of like think about the other tooling around it. So how do you kind of like build a cohesive entity model so that you have this mapping capability between processes. So you have some common keys, how you join the data together. And yeah, of course, there are then things you can fix later on, but that's usually the hard way. So trying to fix the crappy data, that's something that it's quite tedious work. All right, Heikki, would you continue from that?
Yeah, sure. So now that Matti has provided us the data, what we had to do in the Backstage is, of course, create a custom entity provider and processors, and that's basically it. After that, here's what it looks like. So this is a screenshot from OB-Hub production, and as you can see, we have almost 10,000 components there. And most of them are automatically enriched. There is dependencies, ownership, APIs, what they use, what they provide. And I think this really matters because when you are a developer, you really want to find the information in a central location and also see that what are you connected to and who is connecting to you. So are we happy with this solution? Yeah. absolutely we are for now. But there are some issues because data can be wrong, or so I've heard.
Something we are not happy with is that we are not able to like live demo this thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, if you want to see a live demo, we did it in the Backstage community session 2 times. So last December and this February, and those are available on YouTube. So go check those out.
It's not like full like live, but I mean.
Yeah, but it's showing the OB Hub all around. Anyways, so if the data is wrong, what can we do? We actually gave the users a way to fix this themselves, and our teams can still provide the catalog info files in their repositories with the correct information about their components or systems or resources or whatever. And what we do behind the scenes is that we merge in that catalog info file on top of the automatically generated data. And that way, the teams have the control over their software assets. And we took this even further by using the Backstage scaffolder. So users can directly from OB Hub go and edit their entities, and what it does, it basically creates this catalog info file and pushes it to their repository. So that's the solution for that. But we have some things we would like to also do in the future. So today, our entity ingestion works on a scheduled basis. So it basically refreshes everything every 2 hours or so. And we would like to change this to be more event-based. And this would be much more pleasant for our users in terms of user experience, because when they update something, it would be basically in real time in OB Hub available. And another thing that was also mentioned in the KubeCon London is that the event-based entity ingestion is much better in terms of resource consumption of the IDP. But yeah, that's about it. This is our journey this far. And there are some Backstage stickers over the door if you haven't grabbed one, so please go ahead and take those. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Heikki and Matti. We can take a couple of questions.
Yeah, sure.
Hello, Christian Clements from Unity Technologies. Nice presentation, thank you. My question is about like user adoption of like new features and plugins in your Backstage instance. So how did you manage to convince all the developers to use your hub, and how have they kind of, because Backstage is maybe not the easiest tool to start using out of the box, so how did the developers kind of end up using it and developing it themselves?
Thank you for the question. That's a really good question, and I'm afraid I have to answer that we basically forced them to use it. So when we see the adoption rate go really high was when we actually forced users to use automation template to get AWS access rights. So that was the only way to get those. So at that point we saw the quite high peak, but I think nowadays there's AI chat, for example, which is really good, an example to get people in without forcing them. So you just have to do a really good plugins and something that people use.
Yeah, and I think the kind of the first time use is the most critical, so to attract them the first time and then provide something meaningful for them during that first time use. So having their data available in the catalog, like we automatically bring the data, so they don't have to do the dirty work there, or kind of make it like relevant for them from the first use. Then that's the thing that actually then nurtures the usage. And I think nowadays there's so much value that I think it's constantly, like the monthly users are like plus 1,000 or something.
It's 1,400.
Yeah,
last month. So yeah, but it's growing all the time.
And that cannot be kind of explained by the AWS access rights anymore.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
All right. Yeah, maybe one last question.
Yep.
Juha Kuusisto from Hilti. Out of curiosity, how big of a team you have working on the topics, both on the data platform and on the Backstage area?
Yeah, currently it's 15 about. Yeah, yeah, that's roughly the number.
Yeah, it has changed a lot during these years, but from 4 people to 15 people, so something in between.
Yeah, on the
OB Hub side, yeah. And for 3 years now. So.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.